The moment the wagon crested the ridge, the sun sank behind jagged canyon peaks, streaking the sky with blood-red light, and Emily Hart's heart skipped a beat. Two men were dragging a girl across the dusty valley below, her small frame flailing as she struggled against their grip. The scent of smoke and scorched earth drifted from a nearby settler's cabin, mingling with the acrid tang of metal from the nearby abandoned mine. Emily tightened her grip on the reins, her knuckles whitening. She had spent 3 years running her late husband's trading post on the outskirts of Devil's Hollow, learning every whisper and shadow of the town. She was clever, resourceful, and respected, qualities she had relied on to survive after James Hart's sudden death, but nothing in her life had prepared her for this scene. The girl, no older than 12, screamed as the men dragged her closer to the yawning mouth of the old silver mine, its dark interior like an open throat ready to swallow anything daring enough to enter. Emily's mind raced. The canyon was wide and the men were strong, but she had the element of surprise. Dropping the reins, she grabbed the heaviest object within reach, a cast-iron lantern left near the wagon, and ran. The dry earth kicked up dust in clouds around her boots, and a sharp tang of fear burned her throat. "Let her go," she yelled, her voice cracking with urgency and authority. The two men froze, turning toward her. One of them, tall with a scar running down his left cheek, snorted. "Mind your own business, lady," he growled. He shoved the girl roughly, sending her stumbling perilously close to the mine's edge. Her scream pierced the canyon air like a knife. Emily's instincts took over. She dropped the lantern, grabbed a jagged rock, and hurled it with precise aim at the man's shoulder. He yelped and staggered, giving the girl a chance to twist free. The three of them tumbled into a chaotic struggle at the edge of the mine's mouth. Suddenly, a calm, commanding voice cut through the din. "Enough." From the shadows emerged a tall man, lean and muscular, his long black hair tied loosely at the nape of his neck. His dark eyes glinted with a mix of danger and resolve. A worn leather duster hung over broad shoulders, and a silver-tipped rifle rested against his hip. The men froze, assessing him, their advantage gone. "I suggest you leave before I make you regret it," he said. The calm in his tone belied the deadly precision in his stance. Emily's knees nearly gave out as relief surged through her. This stranger was not a passerby. He radiated authority and power, the kind that made lawmen uneasy and outlaws cautious. The scarred man cursed under his breath, and without further hesitation, the two culprits fled into the canyons, disappearing into the creeping darkness of the approaching night. Emily exhaled shakily, her heart hammering. "You're safe," the man said, extending a hand. His fingers were calloused but steady. "Name's Caleb Ward." "I thank you," Emily stammered, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. She turned to the girl, who was shaking violently, her small hands pressed against her knees. "This is Sarah," Emily whispered gently, guiding the girl closer. "You're okay now." Caleb's gaze shifted toward the yawning mine, his expression darkening. They were dragging her in there for a reason. Something important. "We need to find out what." Emily swallowed hard, fear and determination battling within her. Devil's Hollow had always been a quiet, unremarkable place. But this was something older, deeper, and far more dangerous than she had imagined. By the time they reached the wagon, the last light had vanished, leaving the valley shrouded in twilight. The wind whispered across the canyon, rattling loose stones and carrying with it the scent of sagebrush and dry earth. Emily felt the weight of responsibility settle onto her shoulders. The girl's life depended on them, and she would not fail. "Can she talk?" Caleb asked, crouching beside Sarah, his dark eyes softening. "She tries," Emily said. "Her father was a miner who disappeared years ago. The relatives who took her, they're cruel. They would sell anything for gold or silver. Emily's voice faltered, memories of her own husband and the losses she'd endured making her chest ache. Caleb nodded slowly. We need a plan. We can't just rush into that mine without knowing what we're dealing with. Whoever they are, they won't hesitate to kill for what they want. The girl, Sarah, finally looked up at them, her hazel eyes wide with terror. They want the map, she whispered, her voice trembling. The one my father hid, they said. They'd kill me if I didn't lead them to it. Emily's stomach dropped. A map hidden in an abandoned silver mine? She had heard the legends. The mine was cursed, abandoned after a series of accidents, miners vanishing without a trace, but never did she imagine it would involve someone so young, so innocent. Caleb's hand went to his rifle. We'll get it first, he said firmly. And no one's hurting her tonight. Emily nodded. We move carefully. Follow the canyon trail south. It's safer, less exposed. The night wrapped around them as they approached the mine, their lantern casting shadows that danced across jagged rock walls. Every step forward felt heavier, the mine's silence pressing in, thick with centuries of dust, secrets, and the faint metallic scent of abandoned veins of silver. Emily gripped Sarah's hand tightly, feeling the girl's trembling lessen slightly under her touch dot as they descended the first slope. Emily noticed carvings etched into the stone wall symbols she didn't recognize. Some looked like miner shorthand, others like native markings. Her fingers traced one of the carvings, and she felt a shiver run down her spine. These aren't just random marks, she murmured. Someone was trying to warn people. Caleb's eyes narrowed, scanning the tunnel ahead. Or hide something, he said. Keep your wits. We don't know what else is down here. Deeper into the mine, the temperature dropped. Water dripped from stalactites overhead, the smell of damp earth and sulfur thickening. The beam from Emily's lantern flickered over old tools, rusted carts, and the skeleton of what must have once been a miner's living quarters. Shadows seemed to move where none should be, and every distant echo sounded like footsteps. Suddenly, the silence shattered with the clatter of loose rock. Emily yelped, clutching Sarah to her chest. Caleb raised his rifle, moving toward the sound. Stay close, he whispered. It's not just us down here. Emily's pulse raced. Who could it be? She asked softly. I don't know, Caleb admitted. But whoever it is, they're still following the trail. And I doubt they came here for silver alone. The three moved cautiously through the winding tunnels, their footsteps muffled by dust and debris. Emily could feel the oppressive weight of history pressing down around them. The mine held decades of secrets, tragedies, and perhaps treasures far beyond gold or silver. Every creak, every whisper of wind through the tunnels made her heart pound in her chest dot. When they reached a fork in the tunnel, Sarah trembled again. This way, she whispered, pointing toward the darker of the two paths. He always went this way. Emily exchanged a glance with Caleb. He nodded. Then that's where we go. Stay close, Sarah, and be ready for anything. The darkness seemed to deepen as they moved forward, and Emily realized that the canyon above was not the only danger. Down here, in the heart of Devil's Hollow, the past and present collided in shadows, waiting to test their courage and resolve. Emily clenched her jaw. She had survived loss, betrayal, and hardship, but this was unlike anything she had faced. Yet she would not turn back. She would see this through, for Sarah, for the truth, and for herself. The morning sun had barely touched the peaks of Devil's Hollow when Emily, Caleb, and Sarah emerged from the night's terror. Dust clung to their hair and clothes, their lungs still tasting the acrid tang of the canyon air. Emily knelt beside Sarah, brushing the sweat-streaked dirt from her face. You're safe now, Emily said softly, though the girl's wide, frightened eyes told her otherwise. We'll figure this out, I promise. Sarah clutched Emily's hand, trembling. They said my father hid something. A map, a key. Something that would give them everything. Caleb's jaw tightened. Then we need to find it before they do. No one drags a child into a cursed mine for silver alone. Emily nodded, scanning the valley around them. The canyon had quieted, but the danger had not passed. The footprints of the men who had dragged Sarah still etched the dusty earth, leading toward the abandoned mine. We follow the trail, she said. Carefully. The three of them moved cautiously, weaving through the jagged rocks and sagebrush. The sun rose higher, burning away the mist but turning the earth underfoot to a dry, cracked canvas. Caleb led the way, rifle ready, eyes scanning for movement. Emily kept her lantern close, shadows flickering across the canyon walls, reminding them of the mine's looming mouth ahead. Inside the mine, the air was cold and stale. Emily's lantern cast golden halos over the stone walls, revealing layers of dust, stalactites, and old mining marks. Water dripped from above, carrying the faint metallic scent of silver. Every step echoed ominously, magnified by the hollow corridors. Stay close, Caleb whispered. We don't know what else is down here. Sarah trembled, her small hand tightening around Emily's. My father, he always said there were tunnels beneath the mine. Hidden chambers. Places no one should enter. Emily frowned. Hidden chambers? Then that's where the men were taking you. She looked at Caleb. We're going deeper. The tunnels twisted and sloped downward, dust and debris crunching underfoot. Emily's eyes adjusted to the dim light, revealing markings etched into the stone, strange symbols blending minor shorthand with something older, almost native in design. Emily traced them with her fingers, feeling the grooves. These aren't random, she murmured. Someone was leaving warnings or directions. Caleb's gaze scanned the tunnel. Or trying to hide something. Either way, we need to keep moving. Deeper still, the temperature dropped. The dripping of water grew more constant, echoing like a heartbeat through the stone corridors. The faint smell of sulfur burned Emily's nose. Every shadow seemed to move, and every echo made her jump. She could feel the history of this place pressing in decades of miners, greed, accidents, and disappearances. Suddenly, Emily froze. Ahead of them, a faint glimmer of light flickered on the wall. At first, she thought it was the reflection of their lantern, but then she realized it was deliberate, a tiny mirror catching the light. Symbols surrounded it, etched into the stone. Sarah's eyes widened. That's his work, she whispered. My father. He left messages for anyone who came looking for the mine, but not everyone would understand them. Caleb crouched beside the girl. We'll decode it. For now, stay close. They followed the subtle hints along the walls, stepping carefully around fallen rocks and shallow pits. Emily's boots sank into patches of damp soil, her ears straining for any sound beyond the constant drip of water. The mine seemed alive, shifting with every step they took, testing their courage. After what felt like hours, they came to a larger chamber. The air was colder here and the scent of damp earth stronger. The chamber's walls bore crude markings and faded paint, once perhaps used to chart mining tunnels, but the floor revealed something more. Skeletons, half buried in dust, tools rusted and abandoned. The history of the mine's dark side was etched in every bone and broken pickaxe. Emily's stomach twisted. They didn't just come here for treasure, she said quietly. They came here for something dangerous. Something that's been hidden for a long time. Caleb knelt, examining the skeletons. And someone didn't want it to fall into the wrong hands. His eyes swept the room, landing on a trapdoor at the far end, nearly hidden beneath a pile of rubble. There. Emily swallowed hard. That has to be it. That's where they were taking Sarah. Sarah's eyes flicked nervously to the trapdoor. He always said the last tunnel was dangerous, that no one should go down there unless they were ready for anything. Caleb gave Emily a firm look. We have no choice. That's where we'll find the answers. Emily took a deep breath, gripping Sarah's hand. Stay close. No matter what happens, we stick together. The trapdoor creaked as they lifted it, revealing a narrow staircase descending into absolute darkness. The air that emerged was colder still, carrying a metallic tongue that made Emily's stomach churn. Every step downward seemed heavier than the last, as if the weight of history pressed down on them. The walls of the lower tunnel were damp, slick with moss and water. Shadows twisted unnaturally, and the sound of dripping echoed like ghostly whispers. Emily's hand never left Sarah's, and Caleb's rifle remained raised, scanning every corner. A sudden clatter echoed from deep within the tunnel. Emily jumped, clutching Sarah to her chest. Caleb moved forward, rifle at the ready. They're still here, he muttered. And they're not alone. Emily's pulse raced. Who could it be? The men from last night? Caleb shook his head. I don't think so. This is bigger than them. Whoever's here knows the mine better than we do. They pressed forward, following faint markings that led deeper into the earth. Emily noticed carved symbols along the walls, some resembling animals, others geometric, strange even to her trained eye. Each seemed to tell a story, warnings, instructions, or perhaps a map of the hidden chambers below. Finally, they reached another chamber, larger than the last, with walls glinting faintly from veins of silver. The air was damp, the smell of metal strong. In the center of the room, half buried under dirt and rock, was a small wooden chest, weathered by time. Emily knelt beside it, brushing away the dust. Sarah's eyes widened. That's it. That's what he hid. Caleb crouched beside Emily, examining the chest. Careful, he warned. We don't know what traps might be set. And I guarantee we're not the only ones after this. Emily opened the chest slowly. Inside lay a folded map, old but intact, and several small wooden boxes containing papers, ledgers, and tools. The map detailed the mine's secret tunnels, hidden chambers, and most importantly marked something Caleb's experienced eyes recognized immediately. Look at this, he said. These tunnels aren't just for mining. There are chambers designed to protect something big. Whoever your father was protecting, it's valuable enough that people would kill for it. Emily's eyes widened. She traced the map with her fingers, realizing the enormity of what they had uncovered. We can't stay here. We need to get this out, get Sarah somewhere safe, and figure out how to protect it. A sudden rumble shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling, and Emily stumbled, catching Sarah before she could fall. Caleb raised his rifle. That's our cue to leave. Whoever set this up doesn't want anyone taking it. As they retraced their steps through the twisting tunnels, Emily felt the tension of the mine pressing in, every shadow seeming alive. She held Sarah tightly, whispering reassurances, while Caleb's watchful eyes scanned every corner. At the entrance, daylight was already fading into afternoon. The valley outside seemed calm, almost deceptively so. But Emily knew better. The world above ground had its own dangers, and the men who had tried to capture Sarah were only a small part of it. The mine had secrets, and now they were armed with knowledge that could change everything. Emily looked at Caleb. We need a plan. We can't just hide. They'll come for this, and they'll come for Sarah. Caleb nodded, his jaw firm. Then we make sure we're ready. For them, for whatever's down there, for everything. Sarah, clutching the map in Emily's hand, looked up with wide eyes. Will we be okay? Emily smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's face. Yes, we will. because we stick together, and we fight for what's right. As the sun dipped low again over Devil's Hollow, the trio stood at the canyon's edge, the mine behind them and the vast wilderness ahead. They had survived the first trial, uncovered the first secrets, but Emily knew this was only the beginning. The mine had more to reveal, and the world outside was full of dangers just as deadly. But one thing was certain: Emily Hart, Caleb Ward, and Sarah were no longer just survivors. They were guardians of a secret that many would kill to claim. And the shadow of the mine loomed, waiting for the next move. By the time Emily, Caleb, and Sarah emerged from the mine, the sun had climbed high over Devil's Hollow, turning the valley into a harsh landscape of jagged rocks, dry earth, and glimmering sagebrush. Their clothes were streaked with dust and sweat, and every step reminded Emily of the mine's looming shadow. "We can't go back to town," Caleb muttered, scanning the horizon. "If those men or whoever sent them know we have the map, they'll be waiting for us." Emily nodded, her mind racing. The abandoned railway line that cut through the canyon to the east was their best option. Rusted and long unused, it provided a clear path hidden from prying eyes, but it was also exposed enough to be dangerous. The cart tracks, though worn, could still carry a wagon if needed, but Emily knew the terrain demanded caution. Sarah clutched the map tightly, her knuckles white. They'll follow us," she whispered. "They won't stop." "They're going to try," Caleb said, his tone grim. "But we won't let them. Stick close, Sarah, and Emily, let's move." The trio set off, moving swiftly along the dry earth and sagebrush that bordered the railway. Emily's boots sank into the cracked soil, every step a reminder that the canyon was no friend. Caleb led the way, rifle slung over his shoulder, eyes constantly scanning for threats. His presence was reassuring, but the tension in the air was palpable. Hours passed, the sun burning overhead, turning the valley into a golden furnace. Shadows shifted in the corners of Emily's vision, every gust of wind sounding like footsteps. She kept Sarah close, whispering words of encouragement while keeping her own fear at bay. The map, folded carefully and tucked into Sarah's satchel, felt like a ticking time bomb in her mind, too valuable to lose, too dangerous to leave behind. Finally, they reached the old railway line. Rusted rails stretched ahead, disappearing into a curve in the canyon. Emily knelt beside Sarah, inspecting the track. "It's intact mostly," she said. "If we can find an old handcar, we might be able to move faster." Caleb's eyes narrowed. "I saw one near the abandoned depot, a mile down. It'll be risky, but it's our best chance." As they approached the depot, the distant sound of hooves echoed against the canyon walls. Emily froze, her hand gripping Sarah's arm. Caleb raised his rifle. "They're coming," he muttered. "And I don't think it's just the two men from before." A group of riders appeared on the horizon, dust swirling behind them. They were armed, disciplined, moving with purpose. Emily felt her stomach tighten. This was more than a random attack. Someone powerful was behind this, and their target was the map. "We need the train," Caleb whispered. Now. The depot was a skeleton of rusting metal, old wooden beams creaking in the wind. Emily and Caleb darted inside, finding the handcar, a small rail vehicle once used to transport supplies. Emily climbed aboard, setting Sarah beside her. Caleb hefted the map onto the platform. "Hold tight," he said, giving a sharp push. The car jolted forward along the rails. The riders were gaining, their shouts echoing across the canyon. Emily gritted her teeth, scanning the curves of the tracks for obstacles. Broken ties, jagged rocks, and sudden turns threatened to topple them at every moment. Dust and gravel sprayed up, catching the sunlight in a blinding haze. "They're faster than we thought," Sarah cried, clutching Emily's arm. Caleb's eyes never wavered. We'll make it. Just stay calm." He bent low, peering down the tracks, looking for safe paths and cover. Emily's hands gripped the sides of the handcar, knuckles white. The wind tore through her hair, whipping dust into her eyes, and the canyon echoed with the distant sound of gunfire as the pursuers opened fire. One bullet pinged off the metal of the handcar. Emily ducked instinctively, pulling Sarah down. "Keep going," she shouted over the din. The chase twisted through the canyon, rails creaking beneath them. Emily could see the pursuers gaining, but Caleb's skillful maneuvering kept them just ahead. Every curve was a gamble, every straightaway a chance to outrun the riders, but Emily knew the real danger wasn't speed. It was what awaited them at the end of the tracks. Finally, the tracks led them to a narrow bridge crossing a deep chasm. Emily's stomach dropped. The bridge was old, wooden beams rotting in the sun, held together by rusted iron. One wrong move and they'd fall hundreds of feet into the canyon below. Caleb slowed the handcar, inspecting the planks. "We can make it," he said. "But stay low, don't shift your weight, and hold on to Sarah." Emily nodded, her heart racing. "We can do this." Slowly, they inched across the bridge. The rails groaned beneath the weight, dust falling into the abyss below. Emily's eyes darted to the edges, imagining the consequences of a misstep. But Caleb's steady hands and the careful pacing of the handcar brought them safely across. On the other side, Emily allowed herself a brief moment to exhale. "Almost there," Caleb said, peering down the tracks. "There's a hidden curve ahead, enough to throw them off. But we have to act fast." Emily spotted a fallen tree partially blocking the tracks around the curve. She grabbed it with Caleb's help, wedging it in place to slow the pursuers. The group of riders thundered into the curve, not expecting the obstruction. Several men were thrown from their horses, a few scrambling to regain control as Emily, Caleb, and Sarah gained precious distance. As the canyon opened into a wider valley, Emily finally allowed herself to look at the map. The secret tunnels, hidden chambers, and markings were more complex than she had imagined. Whoever her father had been protecting had gone to great lengths to keep it safe. And now, with the cartel, or whoever they were pursuing them, Emily realized the stakes had risen far beyond treasure. They reached an old wooden shack, half hidden behind a cluster of boulders. Caleb leapt from the handcar and helped Emily and Sarah down. "We'll hide here for a while," he said. "Regroup, plan our next move. They'll be back, and they'll be more organized." Inside the shack, dust motes danced in the sunlight streaming through cracks in the walls. Emily set Sarah down, brushing dirt from her hair. "You did well," she said. "But we're not safe yet. We need to protect the map, and you." Caleb studied the entrance, rifle across his lap. "They know someone has it, and they'll come back. We can't stay here long, but it's enough time to plan." Sarah pulled the map from her satchel, eyes wide. "What do we do now?" Emily studied the markings carefully. "We need allies. Someone who knows the terrain, someone who won't back down. There's a town not far from here, Blackthorn Gulch. We can reach it by nightfall, and we'll find people willing to help." Caleb nodded. "And if the men come before then?" Emily's jaw tightened. "Then we fight. We've made it this far, and we won't let them take the map or Sarah without a fight." The sun sank low, casting long shadows across the valley. Outside, the canyon was quiet again, but Emily knew it was only a temporary lull. The danger was not gone, it was circling, waiting for the moment to strike. Inside the shack, the three of them huddled together, forming a fragile bond forged through fear, determination, and trust. Emily studied Caleb's steady gaze, feeling a sense of reassurance she hadn't realized she needed. He was more than an ally, he was a shield, a constant in the chaos surrounding them. Sarah leaned against Emily, exhausted but safe for now. "I think I can sleep," she murmured, clutching the map to her chest. Emily smiled faintly, brushing Sarah's hair from her forehead. Rest. We'll face whatever comes next together. Caleb checked the rifle one more time and looked toward the horizon. We're not just running anymore, he said quietly. We're chasing the truth. And anyone trying to stop us is going to regret it. Emily nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The journey was far from over. The mine had secrets, the map held dangerous knowledge, and the people who pursued them would not stop until they had what they wanted. But for the first time, Emily felt a flicker of hope. They had survived the tunnels, the chase, and the unknown. And now, armed with courage, determination, and each other, they were ready for whatever came next. Outside, the sun disappeared behind the cliffs, and the shadows of Devil's Hollow stretched across the valley like dark fingers, waiting for the night and for the next battle to begin. The moon hung low over Devil's Hollow, silver and cold, casting long shadows across the canyon. Emily, Caleb, and Sarah crouched behind a jagged boulder near the edge of the valley, the old map safely tucked into Emily's satchel. Below, the distant sound of hooves echoed, a rhythmic beat of menace that grew louder by the second. They're coming, Caleb murmured, scanning the shadows with narrowed eyes. His rifle rested across his lap, finger on the trigger, and every muscle coiled with tension. Emily tightened her grip on Sarah's hand. We knew this was coming, she said softly, though her heart hammered against her ribs. We just need to make sure we're ready. Sarah clutched Emily's arm, eyes wide. Are they going to hurt us? Emily bent down, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's face. Not if we stick together, she said firmly. We've come too far to let them win now. The sounds grew closer, more horses, more riders. Emily recognized the pattern. They weren't just random mercenaries. They were organized, disciplined, and ruthless. Whoever had been sending men after Sarah and the mine's secrets was powerful, and they would stop at nothing to claim the map. Caleb's jaw tightened. We can't let them reach the town. If they do, they'll spread, and no one will be safe. Emily nodded. Then we make our stand here. Devil's Hollow isn't just our home, it's our advantage. We know every rock, every shadow, every path. They won't have that. As the riders entered the valley, the trio moved into position. Emily and Caleb had spent the day preparing traps, digging shallow pits hidden beneath dust and rocks, and setting up natural choke points along the canyon floor. Every rock could be a barrier, every tree a shield. When the cartel's leader, a tall, lean man with a hawkish face and cold eyes, appeared at the front of the column, he raised a hand and barked an order. The horses whinnied, dust spiraling around them, and a cloud of chaos began to sweep through the valley. Emily's heart raced. Ready, she whispered to Caleb. Caleb nodded. On my mark. The first riders rounded a bend and fell into the traps. Hidden pits, logs, and sharp rocks tore at horses' hooves, unbalancing men and scattering their formation. Emily and Caleb fired carefully from behind the boulders, forcing the remaining riders to slow, disoriented. Sarah crouched low beside Emily, her small frame trembling, but she didn't cry. Emily wrapped an arm around her, whispering reassurances while keeping one eye on the remaining attackers. The battle in the valley was brutal. Horses screamed, men cursed, and dust filled the air like fog. Caleb moved with deadly precision, his rifle echoing through the canyon, while Emily's sharp eyes and quick thinking kept them ahead of the attackers. Every shot, every maneuver was calculated, and slowly the tide began to turn. Emily spotted the cartel leader attempting to regroup, signaling reinforcements from a hidden path along the cliffs. She gestured to Caleb. He's trying to flank us. Caleb's gaze followed hers. Then we cut him off. He moved with swift, purposeful steps, rifle at the ready. Emily and Sarah followed, weaving through boulders and debris, taking advantage of the natural cover the canyon provided. The leader's men were skilled, but they weren't familiar with the terrain. One by one, they fell into traps, misjudged the ground, or were forced to retreat under the sharp shots of Caleb and the ingenuity of Emily. Finally, Emily saw the leader attempting to flee toward the mine's entrance, the very place where this nightmare had begun. Her chest tightened. "Not this time," she said. She sprinted toward the man, weaving through dust clouds and fallen riders, with Caleb covering her flank. The leader turned, gun raised, but Caleb's rifle cracked first, shattering the weapon and sending the man stumbling backward. Emily reached him just as he tried to flee, grabbing him by the collar and pushing him to his knees. "Your greed ends here," she spat, her voice echoing across the valley. The man glared at her, fury in his eyes, but he was surrounded. The townspeople, miners, and allies Emily had quietly rallied over the past day emerged from their hiding spots, rifles raised and faces set with determination. The balance of power had shifted completely. The leader's shoulders slumped in defeat. You don't understand what you're messing with," he said, voice trembling. Emily pressed the map into Caleb's hands. "We understand perfectly. You tried to steal the future of this town, the safety of an innocent girl, and the secrets her father protected. You failed." One by one, the remaining riders surrendered or fled, their morale broken. The canyon was silent again, the only sounds the wind through the rocks and the heavy breathing of those who had survived the chaos. Emily knelt beside Sarah, pulling her close. "It's over," she said softly. "You're safe now." Sarah hugged her tightly, tears streaking her dusty face. "Thank you," she whispered. I thought I'd never make it out." Caleb approached, placing a steady hand on Emily's shoulder. "You did it," he said. "We did it." Emily smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from Sarah's face. "We survived. And we stopped them from taking what wasn't theirs." The three of them walked back toward the mine, now silent and foreboding. Emily couldn't help but feel a chill at its gaping mouth. The tunnels held history, danger, and the secrets that had caused so much suffering, but now they had a chance to honor that history. Inside the mine, Emily carefully examined the map and papers her father had hidden. They contained not only tunnels and chambers but also records of corruption, hidden deals, and evidence of those who had exploited the miners and townspeople for decades. Emily's mind raced with possibilities. "This isn't just about silver," she said to Caleb. "It's about justice. The town needs to know the truth." Caleb nodded. "Then we deliver it. And we make sure the mine stays safe so no one can exploit it again." Together, they carefully packed the papers and map, ensuring nothing was left behind. Emily glanced at the dark tunnels, a shiver running through her. "This place, it's dangerous, but it also saved us. It gave us a chance to fight back." The trio emerged from the mine as dawn broke over Devil's Hollow. Light spilled across the valley, illuminating the scars of the night's battle, but also casting hope over the landscape. Emily looked at Caleb and Sarah, feeling the weight of what they had survived and the bond they had forged. The townspeople of Blackthorn Gulch were waiting, ready to hear the story, ready to reclaim justice for the first time in decades. Emily led the way, her steps confident, every ounce of fear replaced with purpose. In the weeks that followed, the mine was secured, sealed, and protected under town supervision. Emily's leadership turned Blackthorn Gulch into a thriving community, guided by principles of fairness, courage, and transparency. Caleb stayed by her side, a steadfast partner and protector of both the town and its secrets. Sarah, once vulnerable and frightened, found a family and safety in the town she would now call home. Emily often visited the edge of Devil's Hollow, looking down into the silent mine. Its shadows held memories of fear and danger, but also of resilience, courage, and survival. The mine had been a crucible, testing them in ways they could never have imagined, and they had emerged stronger. One evening, as the sun set behind the canyon ridges, Caleb joined Emily at the cliff's edge. "You think it'll ever really be quiet here?" he asked. Emily shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "No, but it doesn't need to be. It's a reminder of what we survived, and what we fought for. And that's enough." Sarah ran up, laughing, holding a bundle of wildflowers she had picked from the canyon floor. "Look," she cried. "They're for you, Emily." Emily knelt, taking the flowers and hugging her tightly. "Thank you, Sarah. They're beautiful." Caleb watched, a soft smile on his face. Emily's eyes met his, and in that moment, no words were needed. They had survived the darkness together, and the light of a new day spread across Devil's Hollow, promising hope, justice, and a future they had fought to secure. The mine, once a place of danger and fear, now stood as a silent testament to courage, truth, and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to face the unknown. Emily Hart, Caleb Ward, and Sarah had not only survived, they had triumphed. And their story would echo through the canyon for generations, a tale of resilience, bravery, and justice in the unforgiving heart of the Old West.